Seriously.
He was so excited too. He's like, oh yes.
Yeah,
please, tell me more.
Yeah,
He's like, okay.
Seriously.
All right, guys, we are live. Things are being recorded. If you're in in the office right now, you want to make sure that you're taking notes, ready to dig in for the next couple of minutes. It's today's topics are pretty action packed, and what we're going to do is we're going to kind of flip the order just slightly, just so that we can make sure we get through all the information for everybody collectively as a whole. And then for first year team, I've got a video for you guys to watch on recruiting, and and for next level, we're going to be talking a little bit about eliminating zero sellers and increasing productivity. So we're going to have kind of a breakout that's going to take place at the end. So we're going to have everybody watch the video kind of at the end, and then post your takeaways after you've finished watching it. For those of you just hopping on, welcome. I'm excited for what's going to be a great event this evening, and more excited about the event on Saturday. Saturday is going to kick off our official monthly prep. And Josh, dude, I'm going to ask that you either mute or just hop off, dude, and watch the video later, because I know you're playing with your kids or whatever, but it's going to be hard for you to pay attention if you're constantly unmuting, and I've got kids, speaking in the background. So either stay muted or hop off, watch the video later, and let's get a call to discuss what we need to do moving forward. So, so here is the topics we're going to dig in today. We're going to be talking about, working with this love language score, this love language test that you guys took last week. We're going to talk a little bit about personal integrity accounts. Then we're going to dig into a little bit about credit score management, and then talk about tips to being a great recruiter for professional development. So the topics of personal and financial we're going to begin with. We're going to finish off today with some professional tips, and then I'm going to go over some announcements. So first thing for announcements overall, we got our first monthly prep starting on Saturday. So Saturday, September 7th. 10 to 5 at the pilot office. It's going to be an amazing event for those that are coming in. Try to be in here a little early. I'm going to be here probably around 9 o'clock or so, just to kind of open up the office, make sure things are ready. You're going to want to have a couple things with you for this meeting. You're going to want to have a 3-ring binder, so that way you can keep all of your notes and be able to add things to your business plan. For those of you that have already been in TLA, bring your band binder from last year, just so that way you have it. For those of you that have not, you're going to want to have a 3-ring binder. Obviously, bring your laptop, bring your planners with you, have pen and paper to be able to take notes. But most importantly, make sure you show up the right way. I found I always get more from a meeting when I show up the right way. And what I mean by showing up the right way is I go into it with some goals and some expectations of things that I want to get out of it before I go into it. I never go into a meeting with the expectation of, okay, impress me. Because the problem with that is you're already setting yourself up for failure. If you go into a meeting saying, okay, I got to learn something to be impressed, then you're not gonna leave the right way. If you go into it with an air of curiosity and excitement, for those of you that have been through Leadership Academy, again, we've got a whole new curriculum for you on productivity enhancements, ways to take the business higher, profit enhancements. For those of you going through it for your first time, there's going to be a lot of new material. You may have heard some of it before or heard variations of it before, but I want you to learn how you can apply these things to your day-to-day life, and then apply things to the Cutco world. So the agenda is going to be pretty epic. I'll send out the agenda, the official agenda, tomorrow with once they get all the timestamps and everything else figured out. But just know that we're going to have a session from like 10 to 1. We're going to have lunch. Like 1 to 2, we're going to be drilling for skill, reviewing stuff, working on things. So for those of you that are big into football, you could check to see what the football scores are during that time. And then we'll wrap things up kind of 2 to 5 with digging into specifics of running a business. So That is going to be the weekend that happens this Saturday. Startup requirements are going to be, at a minimum, we need everybody at least at $100, guys. The goal is how quickly can you get to 1,000, and then there's next benchmarks. The next benchmark above 1,000 is 2,500. Above 2,500, it's 5,000. Then 7,500, then 10,000, and then after 10,000, every 5,000 is another benchmark that you want to be shooting for. You had a question?
I was just asking if we're doing anything after.
Yes. So afterwards, we'll probably go watch football somewhere. Are there any big night games happening that you're excited about?
LSU, Texas.
Oh, LSU, Texas, huh? It'd be a good game. So, what's that?
Clemson and A&M.
Clemson and A&M. Okay. Yeah. There's going to be some good games, right?
Yeah.
Be some good games. It looks like the Heisman candidate race may come down to Tua versus Jalen Hurts. That'll be exciting to see if that continues to play out. Link for recordings and all right. So let's go ahead and jump into a couple other things that we've got. The SLC the sales contest is officially starting next Tuesday. I've sent out the prizes for that, but guys, the prize levels are ridiculously easy to hit. I'm talking, it's a 3-week contest, and you sell $2,500. You win a cheese knife, guys. That's a joke. The prize level's small, but so is winning it, right? You're talking, it averages out to 3 orders a week. You get 3 orders a week, and you're going to win a free cheese knife just for doing your job. At $4,500, not only do you win the cheese knife, but you also win the deluxe honey knife. At $7,000, you win a red galley +6, which, guys, that is a hot prize. It's worth about $1,000 now. So pretty cool prize just for doing your job. You could sell it for cash if you don't like the color red. You can use it for your own personal set to have at school. So that way your demo kit is kind of packed up, ready to rock for demos. $10,000, you win the flatware chest, which is worth over $1,400. And then at $12,000, you actually win both. So you win both the galley +6, and you win the flatware chest. So I'm going to be asking what your goal is for the push this upcoming Saturday. So be thinking about what level you'd be excited about hitting. Get time with your manager to map things out. Everybody's going to have a little bit different strategy to hitting their levels. For some people, it's going to involve doing more, presentations in person. For some people, it's going to involve doing more virtual presentations, maybe calling old customers, letting them know. There is a window that we could take advantage of these next, basically 10 days, which is that the prices have gone up officially. They've already gone up, right? If you go to cutco.com, you'll be able to see what the new prices are, but you have a window until September 16th to get orders in under the old prices, right? Which is, so it's kind of a double win, right? If you are doing a presentation for a new customer, present it at the new prices. You gave yourself a pay raise. If you got an old customer that bought from you in the past, reach out to them, let them know, hey, the prices have gone up. However, I've been extended a grace period until September 16th to get in any orders for Christmas or any past customer orders to help take care of them. So use this to your advantage to help drive additional sales for yourself these next 10 days or so. Okay. But that officially begins on the 10th. Other things, guys, is we're gonna do a phone jam contest on Sunday with some free Cutco, and I'm also going to be awarding a special prize for the first week, the top 3 sales reports out of the Leadership Academy group. So the top 3 sales reports are going to win a special swag prize. It's going to be some Georgia Division swag. There's I've got a couple of Cutco swag items to be given away. I'm giving away a Georgia Core black clover hat, which is the cool hat that it's got the black clover on, and be giving away a Georgia Core professional. It's called Sling Pack. It's basically like a professional book bag with the Georgia Core logo on it. Some of you guys have seen Sam or some other people rock that. It's pretty sweet. Only district managers have this, by the way. So I'm going to be giving away one of those, and I'm also going to be giving away a Cutco gym bag. So some cool kind of, not Cutco gym bag, but divisional gym bag. I know I think Jacob's got one of the gym bags. I think you've got one of those, right? So they're pretty cool. They hold your shoes, they hold your other stuff. You can also use it as a demo kit bag on steroids. It holds all of your roll-ups. It'll hold all your food and stuff for your presentation. So kind of a cool little prize just for doing your job. Basically, the company already has a cool contest. I'm just doing something special for you guys as Leadership Academy members for stepping up and doing your job. So people are in the buying mood, by the way. Just saw a representative that hasn't worked with us in over a year roll out a homemaker set this week from an old customer looking to buy before the price increase and looking to buy a early Christmas gift. So it's already happening across the division. So might as well take advantage of it. Okay. So let's dig in to some personal growth material. So you took your quiz last week. You took your leadership or your love language quiz. Was anybody shocked by the results of this? Or is this something where it's like, okay, it kind of makes sense a little bit? Okay. Anybody feel like, okay, this totally makes sense based on, me, right? I know that was me. As I took the quiz and took it, I'm like, you know what? That is why I operate the way I tend to operate, right? My love languages, I'm very high in physical touch. I'm very high in acts of service, right? So I'm very, like I just naturally have that energy. I like to high five people. I like to give people knuckles. I like to kind of bump people when they walk into the office. I get them, little karate chop the shoulders every once in a while. That tends to be my MO. But I also really appreciate when people do acts of service. So I get more excited when somebody kind of like helps clean up the office at the end of a team meeting. I get more excited about that than somebody, coming in and buying me something, right? When somebody, offers to help, it goes a long way with me. I also naturally show affection and appreciation with those types of things, doing, service for people and, versus, necessarily, remembering to build them up or to tell them things that are positive. So, so if your love language was not a surprise to you, the key is making sure that you acknowledge areas that maybe were really low for you. And when you acknowledge that in those areas that are low, making sure that you show those things to people that have those love languages. You're going to need to go out of your way to make sure that you're offering those forms of appreciation to people. So the first step of, the love language quiz and how to utilize it is to know why you are the way that you are, but also to identify blind spots. Okay, to identify blind spots in your management style, to identify blind spots in how you show appreciation. Okay, meaning that if you have a very low words of affirmation, you need to make sure that you're going out of your way. You need to be more intentional about offering words of encouragement to people, because you're not going to naturally do that. If you have a low quality time score, right? For some of you guys, quality time may not be very high. And if that is the case, you need to make sure that you go out of your way to be more intentional when you're having conversations with people, to be more engaged in that conversation, because it's natural for you to want to have it quickly and then move on. Gifts, right? Gifts is one of those things where in the workplace is not as important, but I will say one of the things that tends to get kind of brushed under the rug if somebody has a low gifts or receiving gifts is they don't tend to acknowledge birthdays big. They don't tend to think as much about the birthdays. They don't go out of their way to recognize. Maybe people feel good about it for their birthday. They don't coordinate things at team meetings for people who are having their birthday. So again, be aware of your blind spots when something is low. Okay. The next step: have people around you, people that matter in your life, take the quiz. That's another thing, right? But and especially people that are in your circle of influence. So an exercise that we'll do during advanced training, or not advanced training, during TLA training, is we're going to do a exercise on circles of influence and people that are in your sphere of influence. And anybody who's in your top 10, you'd want to make sure that that you're having them take that quiz for you. So, so what I'd ask you to do kind of in a very basic, or basic kind of exercise is, who are 5 people that you spend the most time communicating with? Go ahead and write those people down. Okay. So who are the 5 people that are in your sphere of influence, people that you spend the most time talking to? Okay. And if you had to guess, right? So this is the next step. Without them taking the test, I want you to guess what their top 2 love languages are. And I'm doing the same thing right now myself. Okay. So the 5 people that you've spent the most time talking to, or 5 people that you want in your circle of influence. And if you had to guess what you feel like their love language is, go ahead and type that out. What 2? And then have them take it. And what's cool about it, guys, is it's important that you're acknowledging what people's love languages are, so you can show them the appreciation where you meet them, and you meet them where they need to be met. Okay. So, and what you can do is just simply send them the quiz, and just say, hey, doing an exercise for work on appreciation in the workplace, and would love for you to take this quiz. If you've already taken it, send me your results. I'd love to see, if I'm right or wrong. Okay. And what's cool is that by knowing what they value, what they appreciate, it's going to strengthen your relationship with them. It'll strengthen your personal relationship. It'll strengthen your professional relationship if they're a professional contact. Right? But knowing what somebody's love language is enables you to be able to work with it. And so let me give you some examples of each of these. So if somebody's got high quality time, okay, here's ways that you can honor their love language. Okay. Making sure that when you're having a conversation with them, you're putting your phone away. And what's cool is you can even make a point of showing them, hey, look, I'm just down to get spam. I'm going to put my phone away. Right. Or you get a call that comes in while you're there. It's like, hey, you know what? We're just going to spend some time. I'm going to put my phone away. Or when you get time with them, right, you make a phone call, right, to it's different if you're not running an office, you're not getting as many calls, right? Like if you're a college student and you're like hanging out with your girlfriend, and you like call another one of your buddies, hey, I'm not going to answer my phone for the next little bit. I'm hanging with my girl. Like that might look a little over the top, right? But like when you get to be like in my level where we're literally, I'll get on a daily basis, probably 100 text messages, maybe 150 WhatsApp notifications, hundreds of emails, right? Like I know it means a lot to Caitlin if I make a point to either, hey, I'm going to get some time, I'm going to forward my phone, or hey, I'm not going to answer my phone call for the next hour or two. It goes a long way with her. All right. So being intentional about the time that you have. If somebody's got high quality time, right? Just if you're on date night, hey, during date night, we're not going to use our phones, right? We're just going to enjoy each other's company. That goes a long way. Now, if somebody has 0 quality time as their love language, and you do that, they'll be like, all right, it doesn't really mean much to them, right? You'll be better served honoring another love language theirs. But in the workplace, being intentional. So putting your phone away when you're having a conversation with somebody. When you do have a conversation, pulling them aside, right? So that you're breaking, the flow of the day to day to just ask them how they're doing goes a long way. I know if somebody has a high quality time, I try to do that before I'll do that. Hey, before we talk work, hey, how are you doing? Right? How's life? Right? So just making sure that I'm acknowledging, their personhood, right? And their well-being. If somebody's got a high acts of service, Okay, ways that you can honor that love language, show the appreciation that goes a long way with them, is simply saying, hey, is there anything you need help with? Right? Hey, how can I help? Right? Is there anything you need to get, or if you're about to leave the office or you're about to leave, the classroom, like let's say you got a professor, right? And you can kind of sense that, acts of service is high on their list. Like, hey, before I leave class, you need help clean anything up today or anything before I leave class, right? Just little things like that can go a long way towards getting on their good side, showing appreciation. And here's what I'll say, guys, it's not fake if you're doing it for the right reasons. Does that make sense? Meaning if you're trying to increase, the relationship for purposes of mutually beneficial situations, which is typically how it is, right? If professors want their students to do well, students want to do well in the class. So if you're going out of your way to ask the professor if they need help with anything and acts of service is high on their list, they'll really appreciate that. Okay? Volunteering to help pass stuff out. I'll say for, in the workplace, calling ahead before you get to the office. Hey, I'm on my way in. I was going to run by Quick Trip. Do you want me to grab you a coffee? Do you want me to grab you something? That goes a long way for those people. By the way, even if they're paying for it, it makes a big difference. Does that make sense? Like for me, acts of service is really high. So if somebody does that for me, even if I'm the one giving them money, I still feel really good about the interaction that just took place because they made my life easier, right? Good work there, Anthony. Good work, dude. Yeah, good work. But the acts of service goes a long way, right? If physical touch is high, and you could tell physical touch is high, and physical touch tends to be, you can kind of tell physical touch is high just because of the way they interact. They're the ones that they really enjoy the handshakes. They're the ones that are high-fiving. When you give them a fist bump, they're all about it during training, right? I mean. Like you just kind of notice those things, right? There's ways that you can exhibit that. If somebody's going through a rough day, right? Just simply putting your hand on their shoulder, right? Not hugging them, right? Like that's not what we're doing here, right? This is not, that's a good way to get written up or a good way to be reported, right? You don't want to be hugging on people, right? But putting a hand on their shoulder, right? Give them a fist bump, high five, that can go a long way to showing appreciation. Okay. Now, sometimes there is, an appropriate time where where you're celebrating and if you're going to give somebody a hug, the side hug is fine, right? Never bump crotches, right? Never bump chest, right? That should not be the type of hugs we're talking about here. Right. And I have to say that because that's, side to side, never front to front. Right. And certainly never the opposite, back to front. Right. It's side to side is totally cool. Right. Because the whole idea is you're celebrating. It's okay to celebrate. It's okay to recognize. You're showing appreciation in a way to, honor their language and their form of appreciation. Okay. Receiving gifts. Right. So receiving gifts, that's little things. Right. Like, hey, giving people their supplies. That's a great way to show appreciation. Other things is just, remembering birthdays, right? Remembering birthdays goes a long way, and I know with Facebook now, it makes it really easy to not miss somebody's birthday. So if you're adding friends on Facebook, it makes it really easy for birthdays to just kind of, for you to be able to remember it. Putting it in your calendar. I know for me, Ray Chaffardini is somebody I'll never forget because what he does every year when he updates his planner, and he's old school pen and paper, he transfers all the birthdays from one calendar to the next. So he's got them. And he's remembered my birthday now for, oh gosh, I guess I met him in 2002. He's remembered it every year since. And not because it's on Facebook, but because he literally has it written in his planner. Now, here's the thing. Receiving gifts from me isn't a big deal. So it's not like, it's cool that he does that. It doesn't blow me away. It's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. But for somebody that does have that as a high love language, showing that appreciation, acknowledging that is a big deal. People that have high receiving gifts, they're the ones that tend to get most excited about contests, right? They tend to get most excited about prizes being awarded, So now I do realize that competition is sometimes why people work hard and they want it just for the competition value. But for those people that do have a high love language of receiving gifts. They tend to be the most concerned about what the prize is going to be specifically, and they tend to get excited about that. So what's cool about our business, if you acknowledge all these different languages by weaving them into your DNA and into your communication with people, the experience that your people have is really high. Last would be a words of affirmation, and I will tell you guys that that's just a great one in general to use, because even if somebody doesn't have a high words of affirmation appreciation language, it tends to be one of the middle ones, right? For some people, words of affirmation is next to 0, but that's very rare. It's very rare. Most people, words of affirmation tends to be kind of somewhere in the middle for a lot of people, or it's like number 1, right? So it's very rare that it's the lowest one. So it's always a good rule of thumb to make sure you're always reminding people that you appreciate them. I know that, I had a guy named Carl Gedris, I'll never forget. He was a champion district manager back in the day with Cutco, and he had on Tuesday, it was dedicated time on Tuesday, where every Tuesday he called every rep in his organization. He called every rep in his organization, and he just reminded them that he appreciated them. And it was just, hey, you know what time it is? And they're like, oh, you appreciate me, don't you? It's like, yeah, you're right. Right. And he used to, and it was cool because it started off as kind of like hey, I appreciate you. And the first time people get the call, it's kind of like, oh, that's nice. And the next call's like, oh, that's cool. Then third, fourth, fifth, sixth time, it's like, oh, you do this every week, don't you? It's like, you better damn believe it, right? I'm doing it every week, and I still appreciate you as much now as I did back when you were brand new, right? And eventually it gets to that point where they, where I know he said that he would have people go out of their way and like, hey, is everything okay? If they didn't hear from him on Tuesday, like he could be out of town, right? And just not be the one to do the calls. And Wednesday rolls around, it's like, hey, are we cool? Is everything all right? It's just, because they really come to rely on that Tuesday call as kind of like a weekly pick-me-up for their work week. So it's always a good idea to make sure that everybody in your organization feels appreciated, and you let them know that you appreciate them every week. Great opportunities for that is on Wednesday for our organization, but in general, wherever the weekly meetings are, if you're part of an organization that has a weekly meetup, they need to feel that appreciation. And so just let them know, hey, before you guys leave, I just want to let you know I do appreciate each and every single one of you. During our team meetings, I tend to acknowledge every single order being important and how every representative on the team matters. And that's an important skill to develop as a leader, because when people feel good, they tend to do good. Okay. The other topic I want to discuss tonight is a topic called an integrity account. Okay. And this is something where if you start, thinking about this consistently, you're going to get more stuff done. There's an author called David Allen, and he wrote, he's a consultant, and he's the founder of the Getting Things Done method. But basically the whole idea is that in our brains are wired to only be able to hold about 4 things at a time. Right? Kind of crazy. And if you think about all the stuff and the thoughts and the things that you put in your brain is not engineered. It's not designed to be like a hard drive. It's not designed to just store information indefinitely. Your brain is hardwired and designed to come up with ideas and then to get them out, right? So that it can come up with new stuff, right? Because you're always thinking, right? You never stop thinking. And so because of that, his one of the methods that he does with new coaches or new clients that he consults is he starts by having them literally write out every single thing that's going on in their mind. Now, I don't think we need to do that as an exercise, because literally that could take an hour and a half, 2 hours to get everything out on a sheet of paper. But he does that. And the reason he does that is it's designed to be a brain dump, right? It's designed to get everything out, because the way that your brain is wired is it's wired to act on things immediately, but it doesn't typically give order of importance. Okay, the way we store information, it doesn't store things in a hierarchy of importance. You have to consciously think of it and make efforts to sort what's important, right? That's one of the reasons why I think it's so important to journal, right? Because if you don't journal, think about the things that are going on through your head right now. There's probably some important things, and there's probably some really lame things, but need to get done, right? So, like, for example, one of the things that could be in your head is, oh, I need to pick up dog food, right? If you have a dog. If you don't have a dog, obviously it's not going to be that, right? But it may be like, oh, I need to, I don't know. There's probably like some simple, trivial thing that needs to get done. But what's funny is the things that are very trivial and simple, they need to get done, they'll hold the same order of importance as, I got to finish my paper tonight. I got to finish a 12-page paper. I got to watch the videos from last week and get down the pre and post interview again before TLA Saturday, right? Maybe that's what's in your mind, but it doesn't sort by order of importance. So the problem is, if you got all this stuff jumbled up in your head, it's important that you're writing things down and using a journaling method. And we're going to talk about proper journaling at TLA on Saturday. But it stores everything together. So this integrity account, basically the idea behind it is that whenever you make an agreement to do something and you do it, or you make a claim to do something and you do it, you give yourself a positive deposit in your personal integrity account. Okay. Every time you tell yourself you're going to do something and you don't do it, you're taking a withdrawal from that integrity account. And what you'll find is the more that you make these commitments and don't follow through with them, okay, what ends up happening is it ends up wearing on you. You end up feeling drained. You end up feeling less than. You end up being sapped from energy, right? Every time you tell yourself you're going to do something and you do it, you build confidence in you. So, so one of the ideas behind getting things done is put down all the things that need to get done in a day and start with very basic stuff. Meaning you've got your big 3 focuses, things that have to get done, but then also make sure that you've got listed things like, I need to make my bed. And every time you make your bed, boom, you've now accomplished something that you said you're going to do. I need to brush my teeth. I think most people brush their teeth without even thinking about it. But if you acknowledge, hey, I'm going to brush my teeth this morning, boom, as soon as you do it, you're putting a deposit in your personal integrity account. It's giving you that energy that now you can be excited about and operate on. Okay. And so part of it does mean that you need to say no to things that you can't commit to. Okay. And the best place that I start with the things you say yes, things you say no with, is, does it make you a better version of you? And if it makes you a better version of you, then when you say you're going to do, then if the opportunity comes in, say yes to it. If it doesn't make you a better version of you, be good at saying no. So things that are good to say no to would be like, your buddy randomly hits you up and wants you to go out to the bars, or wants you to go out to go do something, and you have the ability to do it, but it doesn't necessarily make you a better version of you. And it holds you back from being able to do the things that do make you a better version of you. Right? So have listed out, your things that make you a better version of you, things that you're making a commitment to, and then just check it off. And then every time you do that, you're building that integrity account. It gives you reserves. And what's cool about that is when you start making a lot of deposits into your personal integrity account, saying, hey, I'm going to do this, and then you get it done. Hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get done. Hey, I'm going to do this and get it done. You'll be amazed at the resources and resolve you then have when you take on bigger tasks. It just becomes what you do, right? And unfortunately, if you make commitments and then you don't follow through, make commitments and don't follow through, make commitments and don't follow through, it then drains your ability, so that when you then say you're going to get something done, you say you'll do it, but damn well you're not going to get it done. And the bigger tasks become too challenging. There's a reason why they say if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. If you want to get something done, give it to somebody who's already getting shit done, because it becomes a habit. Getting stuff done becomes a habit. Not getting stuff done becomes a habit. So, so that personal integrity account is designed around making commitments to yourself that you're going to do something and then doing it collectively. Okay, so that's a fun way of framing why you need to do the things you need to do. All right. Because sometimes as you put these things down, it's like, oh, does it really matter? The answer is yes. If you say you're going to do something, it does really matter. Because if you don't do it, it then drains you. It takes away. It causes you to become a less version of yourself. Okay. So, so that personal integrity account is important. And the other reason, it's the same reason why when you play a video game that has benchmarks or checkpoints, you tend to go to that checkpoint, right? You tend to go to that next level. You tend to go to that next mission. You tend to hit that next thing. And every time you get that little check, it feels good, right? You know, like, any of you guys played Grand Theft Auto at all? You know, that's the example that I could think of from way back in the day. There was a game called Vice City back when I was in college, right? Yeah, yes. You know, Grand Theft Auto Vice City was a game, and it was one of the first games where it had little checkpoints that you had to achieve in order to achieve a mission, right? And every time you got one of those things matched up, the screen popped up and it gave you a little checkpoint. And what it did is it encouraged you to keep going. And it becomes almost like an addiction, right? Whereas you start, you know, becoming successful and you start achieving these checkpoints, it force you to keep going. You get excited about keep going and you keep running with it. You know, I remember I lost an entire week of my life in college to that game, right? Where literally, like, I'd get home from class, I'd sit down and start playing, boom, boom, boom. You know, I would be up all night pretty much playing the game. I'd get up, go to the gym, go to class, come back, play the game. You know, it was like literally like for an entire week almost. And I beat the game, right? And it was one of those things where, you know, if they didn't have those checkpoints, right? What's funny is as soon as I beat the game and there were no longer those missions, there was no longer those checkpoints, guess how long it took me to get tired of that game? About an hour. I beat the game. There's no more things to do. There's no more missions to achieve. It's like, all right, well, it's all right. What's that? It's like, yeah, this game kind of sucks now, right? And it was a good game, and I enjoyed playing. I enjoyed having the cars and stuff and showing people the cool stuff that I'd earned, whatever. But it was just like one of those things where it's like, you know, but it was just one of those things where once you get past that checkpoint, it no longer means anything, right? You know, and so the same thing applies to you with your personal integrity account. As you're getting things achieved, right? You're reminding yourself, it reinforces you to get things done when you make a commitment to something. And when you don't, you don't. Okay. And it's a downward spiral versus an upward spiral. So it's important to make sure that you're acknowledging, you know, what that's doing for you. Okay. Next little thing, we're going to go into some financial management, and then the professional stuff is going to be a video that we're going to watch for first year crew. I'm going to have you guys watch it, and then afterwards post your takeaways, okay, and what's up. So credit score management. Why does it, you know, what are the perks of having good credit? Okay. You know, it's one of those things where most people don't know what it means to even have credit. Okay. In fact, most people don't know anything about their credit score until they go to buy something for the first time out of school. Here's what's dangerous about this. Very few things that are worth having, valuable, can be purchased without credit. Okay, meaning if you ever want to buy a house, you need to have good credit. You know, you can buy a car in cash, and that's fine. But but for the newer cars, the nicer cars, unless you're balling out, and I would argue even if you are balling out, and have a lot of money saved, unless you're, you know, buying a vehicle that, you know, honestly is just, you know, super, super expensive, I'd recommend still making monthly payments on it, because the interest rate right now is so low in most cases that if you have good credit, it makes sense to buy it, invest the money that would have been, you know, put into this vehicle, get the extra rate of return, and then just use the money that you're earning weekly as a way to kind of establish better credit and to pay off your loan. Okay. So that does not mean, by the way, go out and buy a car that's more expensive than you can afford. That's not what we're talking about. What it's saying is, if you want to buy something, whatever you have saved, okay, take half of that, and that's about what you can afford. Okay, meaning if you've got $30,000 saved, you should be able to afford a $15,000 car. Right? If you've got $100,000 saved, you should be able to afford a $50,000 car. right? The reason that ×2 concept is so important is you know that you can handle it, and you know worst case scenario if all hell breaks loose. Let's say you lose your job, you get injured, right? You're in a dire strait. You could pay the vehicle off and then sell it for cash or whatever, and then reinvest it or whatever. So that's why I say take whatever you got, say divided by 2, and that's about the car that you can truly afford. And then what I recommend that you do is you make payments on it. You put down a down payment. If your credit is good, you'll get financed at a very low rate. Okay. For example, with my M3, I got financed, I think at like 1.7 or 1.8% financing with zero money down. It was next to nothing. And it was one of those things where my money was making me a lot more money than in the market and my investments. So it didn't make sense for me to pull, $70,000 or 64, 66, whatever it was out to just, pay for it in cash. I had it, but I didn't do it because it didn't make sense long-term from an investment standpoint. But it helps because my credit score is over 800, right? So the interest rate that I was able to get was very, very high, or very, very low because my credit score is very high. So here's 9 benefits of having good credit. The first one is low interest rates. You get approved for very low interest rates. And low interest rates are important because over time that adds up. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Okay? I mentioned that vehicle, right? So let's say you go out and you buy a, let's say, let's just make it real simple for you. Let's say you go out and you buy a $20,000 car. We'll make it real easy, right? So, brother, that way. Okay. So let's say you go out and buy a $20,000 car from somewhere, right? If your interest rate is, let's call it 2%. Okay. The loan amount is $20,000, and let's say you're breaking that up over 5 years. Okay. Your monthly payment will be $350 a month. Okay. Interest paid will be $1,000 over the course of 5 years. Now, let's say instead of 2%, your interest rate is at 8%, which doesn't seem like that big of a jump. I mean, it seems like a big jump, but it's really pretty easy to get down to that rate if you're not careful, right? So, so at 8% interest, your monthly payment goes from $350 to $405. Again, doesn't seem like that big a deal, right? $60. It's like nothing. For some of you guys are like, $60. I sell $200. I sell Petite Santoku and a trimmer, and boom, I've already paid for that. But here's the kicker: over the course of that loan, instead of paying $1,000 in interest, you pay $4,300 in interest. It's a lot. That's substantially different. The second reason is better chance for credit card and loan approval. This is big. When you're trying to buy a house, guys, you need to have good credit. And unfortunately, no credit is as bad as bad credit when it comes to buying big ticket items like a house or other things. And so a lot of times, people say, oh, don't lease anything, don't loan anything. I agree for the most part. Buy what you can afford, but you need to have credit. And so, it gives you a better chance for credit card and loan approval. It gives you liquidity in times of making big purchases, right? Meaning, let's say that I wanted to buy a building. I'd be able to get approved to buy a building, for, real estate investment or for, storage purposes or for whatever else I wanted to do. I would have, because I've got good credit, I would be able to get lent more money. So if you have a good viable business opportunity, most organizations, to scale it big, you'll need to take an initial loan for some form of the business. If you take a franchise out, you'll need to get a loan in most cases to buy a franchise. You'll get some of it up front that you're paying cash for, but then some of it you'll need to get a loan for. For example, on most gyms, most organizations, that's going to be something you're going to need to do in order to to scale it. Okay. You'll get better insurance rates. That sounds kind of crazy, but when you have good credit, your insurance goes down. You'd be like, what in the world? Why would car insurance go down? Well, there's actually been a study that shows a correlation between bad credit and bad drivers. So if you have good credit, they tend to give you better rates, right? You also get more negotiating power. Okay. When you have good credit, you can negotiate with other loan companies to lower your interest rate. And that was one of the things that I was able to do with when I purchased my car, when I got a mortgage on my house. I used the fact that I had good credit to shop around with other organizations. So I went to USA Today. I went to USAA, which do I have my car insurance and umbrella policy and other stuff. I have that with them. I went to them for a car loan. I went to Chase with it because I've got cars with them. I've got Wells Fargo, and I was able to kind of shop around to get the best rate. And because I had good credit, I was able to play them off of each other. Okay. If you have low credit score, they're unlikely to budge on your loan terms, is what I'm saying. Okay. You also get approved for higher limits. It's one of those crazy things where if you have good credit, they're going to give you more options. They give you more higher limits for cards. And again, it's one of those things where you wouldn't think it's that important to have a higher credit limit. Why would you need a higher credit limit? Well, it's good to have. And what's funny is it's an upward spiral. So when you have decent credit, you get a high proof for a higher credit score. That higher credit score enables you to get higher on your limit options, right? The fifth thing is it gives you easier approval for apartments and rental homes. Okay? Landlords tend to be pretty strict on people with bad credit. Good credit saves you time and hassle of finding one that'll approve renters. Another one that's not really a big one, but it applies for a lot of students. It allows you to get a cell phone on contract with no security deposit. Right? It allows you to get approved for utilities without having to put down a deposit. If you've got good credit, they won't usually make you put down a deposit for your internet or other utilities. And a lot of times, those deposits of $100, $200, $300, $400 is a pain in the butt when you're moving or relocating. You don't get it until you're done using their services. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. And of course, the other things is that having a good credit score gives you kind of bragging rights. It's one of the things that's a lot of organizations, when you're interviewing after college, they'll ask about it. I've heard of people getting denied jobs at banks and other organizations because they had bad credit. I've seen it happen before when somebody has good credit. I've actually had I won't mention the company, but they had two candidates, one of which was one of our Cutco people, two candidates for applying for the job. Pretty much all things else were considered equal, except for the fact that this one had run a business, and they actually mentioned the fact that you've run a business and you've got good credit, it was the difference maker. And so it's one of those things where by having a good credit score, it helps you in the general community. So how do you know? How do you acknowledge where you're at and where do you start? So easiest thing to recommend is go to Credit Karma. Right? And this is something that you'll want to do before this Saturday. One of our assignments is you're going to want to go to Credit Karma, and you're going to want to create a free account. Right? You already have one?
No.
Okay. Credit Karma is nice. Here's the other thing that's nice about Credit Karma is it will notify you if things have been opened up under your name, and it'll allow you to keep track of it. I'll just give you kind of an example of where I kind of got burned as a young student when I was just getting started. So I've told the story many times, told it in training, that I graduated college debt-free, and I did. Graduated college debt-free, $50,000 saved. Well, about 2 years after I had graduated, I found out that one of my family members had taken out a very small loan, a very small student loan under my name. And it wasn't anything malicious. It was something where They were doing it. It was basically, it was my mom, right? My mom took out a very small student loan for my very first semester to kind of help out and pay for some things. And it was taken out under my name because I was a student and it was a student loan, right? And it was designed to help pay for, I think, my meal plan or something like that, my first semester at Carolina. And it was something I had no idea about. My mom knew about it, was making the payments on it. It was like $1,000. It wasn't very much at all. She was making the little minimum payments that you need to make on it. But when she moved from where she was living to Charleston, South Carolina, for whatever reason, that forwarding address didn't get to this loan company, right? All the other mail had been forwarded to her place in Mount Pleasant. It was something where my mom had never even told me about it. I knew nothing about it. Well, it got sent to collections, and I got a phone call on it. They tracked me down here in North Carolina, and or from North Carolina, they tracked me down here in Georgia, and said, "Hey, is this you?" Blah blah blah. Well, yeah, this got sent to collections, and you need to pay it. And of course, I paid it, and it wasn't a big deal. But that was on my credit for gosh, I think it was like 6 years, 7 years, something like that. And it's just one of those little things that, it didn't make that big a difference, but it could have come up had I tried to get approved for something. And oddly enough, sure enough, when I bought the Porsche, it came up. They reference it. They say, what's this little, collection thing? And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I was like, yeah, I paid it off. Not a big deal. And I had to get them on the phone. I had to talk to them about it. They'd acknowledge it. Right. And it was just one of those things. Well, what's cool about Credit Karma is it'll show anything that's been taken out under your name. It allows you to see where you're at. And more importantly, if something has falsely been taken out in your name, it allows you to report it, get it taken care of. Caitlin had a situation recently with this where she went to an eye doctor, and the eye doctor charged her for something that was covered by her insurance. It was like, hey, it's covered by the insurance. Like, okay, cool, no big deal. We'll notate it, yada, 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 no big deal. Well, they forgot to notate it on their system on the back end. It showed up, right? And luckily she was able to see it on her Credit Karma. As this was something that was taken out, she was able to notify. They did the back end work for her, got dropped, boom, everything was good to go. So it's just good to be aware of where you're at, so that then you can make steps to be able to proactively increase it. And one of the things that we'll talk about is how do you get from where a good score is, a bad score is, and eventually get to where it's excellent. Okay. So that's going to be the assignment for one of the assignments for financial is download Credit Karma, find out what your score is. Do not post your credit score in the TLA Leadership Academy group. I do not want, if you want to share it with me, if you want to talk to me about what it is, so we can help your score improve, so we can talk about ways to repair / take it even higher. I would be happy to talk about this. This is fun stuff for me to talk about. I've got a whole workshop on how to use credit to help pay for flights and trips. I'll just go ahead and tell you that all of my Thailand trips have basically been funded by using points and things that I've earned through credit miles and credit cards. So it's one of those things where it's afforded me to travel the world. I've gone to Turks and Caicos based on this. I've like I said, Thailand, Turks, a lot of my big flights that I take, I use some of the rewards and perks that I've got. I've got credit cards that basically give me access to every Sky Lounge across the Sky Lounge and Centurion Lounge across the U.S. and across the country because of playing the game. I get upgraded on probably every other flight that I take to first class, but certainly every flight that I'm on, I get upgraded to Delta Comfort at a minimum, and I don't have to pay for those flights to get up. I pay for the regular flights, but then I get upgraded for free based on getting status through using proper credit management. So that's a fun story and fun exercise for you for another day. But it first starts with having awareness of where you're at and then making progress on it. And then we'll talk about steps that you can use at Leadership Academy on how to start building that credit so that you can start financing your livelihood and your your next entrepreneurship endeavor. So that's big topic for. Can you help him? That's a big topic for Saturday is financial winners. That's the first part of Finances 101, building credit, building savings. Okay. On the professional growth topic, I sent out videos for the pre and the post interview. Hopefully, you guys are getting a chance to see those. We're going to be drilling that and reviewing that this prep on Saturday. But we're going to break out for first year group. I've got a video that I'm going to have you guys watch on keys to being an excellent recruiter. And then for our next level crew, so for our assistants, people that have got their letters of intent in, big hitters, we're going to keep going with some topics on how to eliminate zero sellers. So for those that are first year crew, you guys are free to hop off. I'm going to send the link right now in the WhatsApp group chat. So that way you've got it. It's a link from a talk that I've given a few times at SLC, but it's basically the idea and the mentality behind being a great recruiter and objectives of the group interview and how to make sure that you're dialed in for it. So I'm going to look that up while we're on the call still, and then we'll keep rolling with some zero seller productivity information for next level crews. So be checking the WhatsApp group chat for that. For those on YouTube, we're going to sign off and check the WhatsApp for videos, and then send your debrief after watching the video.